Hey, aloha, everyone. Michelle Melendez here on the Big Island with Blossom Inner Wellness and StandTogetherHawaii.com. And I'm here again with Margy and Jack Flynn. And they have an amazing website, Citizens of the American Constitution.net. Citizens of the American Constitution.net. It is something that all Americans should go and check out. Absolutely amazing. We're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk. We're going to be talking about what the government's been doing, and we're going to talk about how to save America. So, Margy and Jack, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having
Pleasure to
us.
be here. Good to see
Good
you,
to see you
Michelle.
again.
So we first started talking about Charlie Kirk, and then that's when I paused you guys to press record because what you guys were saying was just exactly lined up with what I think about what happened. So let's just start there. What do you guys think really happened with the Charlie Kirk thing?
Another
False
it's a
flag.
false flag. I call it kabuki theater on steroids because nothing that the people are seeing is real. And it's shameful and it's shameless that our country's so-called president and their whole administrative entourage would participate in this, along with all of the big name talking heads like Tucker Carlson and all the other people who are, bemoaning what took place and shamefully using the emotions of the American people to make it look as though some tragedy has taken place when in fact it hasn't. I mean, I have to wonder whether the guy that supposedly was Charlie Kirk was ever Charlie Kirk. It seems like he's a made up figure that came up out of nowhere through the Trump orchestrations. And since that time, he rose to meteoric fame out of the blue, went all over the place, supposedly talking conservatism, etc. But from what I've seen, he's not the character, whoever he is, isn't real. And even if he were the real Charlie Kirk, what he says and what he did in his past are two very different things. And anybody who happened to see that particular video of the so-called shooting, we saw it and we looked at each other and said, boy, was that fake. We knew immediately, first of all, by the way he fell. If he was hit by a supposed 30-06, which is a very large bullet, okay, he would have shot backwards immediately and his neck would have blown apart. His head probably would have fallen off because that's the kind of damage that thing can do, and not just slumped over in a seat like this.
It was an acting job.
A big one,
Yeah.
a common job. And then if you look at any of the subsequent exposés, I will call them, that have come out recently showing time-lapse video of the so-called shooting, you can see that there's sort of like the image of a square overlaid right where the wound is supposed to be. And when Charlie's body is moving, the wound isn't moving. So it's a type of overlay that they can do with AI. And apparently, the chair falling through the table. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, I have. I did a video on it.
A whole bunch of stuff that's going on, which, to me, I got to scream. This stinks to high heaven. It's not real. And so the underlying question has to be for the people of this country: what is going on behind the scenes while they are orchestrating this theater?
Mm-hmm.
The spectacle of the so-called memorial, which supposedly they had hired that facility 4 months in advance. So, gee, that's a little suspicious to me. Just saying.
How many? A lot. Well, all of it.
How many people would even question that? Because it's like you can't say anything. Just like this whole kerfuffle with Jimmy Kimmel, whom I think is a jerk anyway. But he's talking. It's supposed to be comedy. It was insensitive. Well, yeah, it was insensitive if it were really a tragedy, but it doesn't look like a tragedy. I mean, all their pictures look staged and fake. You never see their children in a real living situation, so none of it looks real to me. And yet, the American people seem to have bought this hook, line, and sinker again.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
When are they going to realize they're being lied to? They're being laughed at by everybody that's in this so-called governmental entourage. And there's a lot of people that you wouldn't even think that are on board. And all of the talking heads seem to have pretty much fallen, into the same category. Oh, woe is me. Tucker Carlson claiming to be a good friend, yet he's laughing and joking as a memorial, like it's a roast or something. We only saw glimpses of that because I couldn't stomach watching any of it. But we were just absolutely appalled at the audacity, the arrogance of these people, that they would pull this on the people again. think they're going to get away with it. And unless the American people wake up, Michelle, they will get away with it again.
I agree,
It's not
100%.
This is just another scam,
Mhm.
another fraud, another false flag
typical.
in succession to all the other scams and false flags that the American people have bought.
Why do you think they did this? Why? Because it is absolutely fake. And I used to work with bullets. There's no way that little bit pop pink. No, it would have torn his head off.
Yes.
Also, his shirt came up.
Yeah.
And you're right about going. He would have gone back. So why do you think they would do this? Why would that be a false flag?
Because they can.
Yeah.
Because the American people,
They're right.
I don't like to say it, but they're pathetically stupid. They are pathetically stupid.
Unaware.
I mean, if you look at all the scams that have been pulled upon the people, and the people accept every scam as a reality, what the hell's wrong with the people?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go way back in history, but let's go back to the First World War. That was a scam perpetrated upon the people.
Yeah.
Second World War was a scam perpetrated upon the people.
So I agree with that, but explain why. Why is World War I? Why are you saying that?
Because we fought the war for the Jews, okay? The Kaiser in the First World War had an enemy, and that enemy was communism.
Communism, yes.
Okay? And Germany had invited the Jews back in because they had been thrown out many times in Germany. They were invited back in. Well, this is during World War I. It was very difficult to find a Jew who wasn't a communist in World War I. And the communists, the Bolsheviks, were kicking the hell out of the Russians in World War I. Okay, the Kaiser didn't want the same thing to happen to Germany.
Yeah.
So his enemy was communism, and because his enemy was communism, and the communists who control the world and own America said we got to get rid of this guy, and they did. And the same thing with Adolf Hitler. Now he might not have been the greatest man in the history of the world. I happen to think he was, okay, because of what he was doing. But people would disagree with that.
So what was he doing, Jack? Explain that, because people are going to be like, "What is he talking about?" You guys, the absolute agenda that we've been told about all of these things is a lie, and it's really hard for people to believe this because there's so much. And then I do have friends who have said, you know, that, and I didn't mean for this conversation to go in this direction, but this is where it's at, to say that the Holocaust, you know, they've gone to the places where people were burned and stuff like that. What would you say to people who say they have ancestors who survived that?
I
think they could have. I think they could have ancestors who survived, but really, if you understand the timing, the people that are alive now that say they're survivors were children. They did not know what was going on. If you look at any of the films that show the real camps, they were labor camps, and they were clean. They had theaters, they had kindergartens and schools, they had a hospital, they had musical performances and concerts. They were not what we were told they were.
I've seen those pictures. I've seen those pictures. I'll see if I can pull them up and show people.
And they're genuine. And what Jack was talking about, what Hitler was doing, Hitler was trying to take care of his country, just like Trump is claiming, I'm going to put that in quotes, to be taking care of America first. He's not, okay? But Hitler was. Hitler realized that Germany had been totally raped and plundered after World War I. I mean, they were decimated. They were starving, okay? So he instituted with a group of people that he brought in, who were the best minds at the time, a program to lift the country back up. And if you see pictures of the Germans at the time, they were overjoyed because they were having food on the table again. They were having jobs. They were doing projects to benefit the community. They got rid of all the crap and filth that the bad Jews had brought in.
While the rest of the world was
suffering during the Depression.
Germany wasn't.
So think
about that. They were doing very well.
He was trying to take care of his people, which any good leader would do. His first duty would be to his people of his country, okay? And the Germans, they love their children. They really love their children. And to me, he was like, I think he saw himself sort of as a surrogate father to the people of Germany. That's how he struck me. And all of the propaganda that we've been fed since we were children about what an evil man he was is nonsense. Now, I'm not saying he was a saint, because all leaders have their foibles. But what he did was to try to stop the menace of communism from taking over Germany and Europe, because he could see where it was going. He wasn't a stupid man. he was aware of a lot more than the usual politician. And I think that because he was successful and he really became a living threat to the communist mentality. In other words, there was a program in place that was going to insinuate itself, as it has done in this country. Because he was a threat to that, they had to get rid of him. So how do you do that? You murder him in the public eye. You vilify him. They do that to all of their enemies. And it doesn't matter whether it's somebody that's just a little, peg in or a great big enormous figure like he was. They ruin them. And so Americans have, first of all, been filled with lies. And the same is true of the Palestinians. And I want to bring this in as a related thought, because we have talked to people all over the country many times, and it's stunningly shocking how many Americans think that the Palestinians are evil. They're nothing but suicide bombers. And that is such an unfair portraiture of these people. They are very kind and loving people. They are peaceful people. They welcome when the Balfour Declaration came through, and the Rothschilds basically bought Palestine and said, "Here, we want this is going to be our new homeland." Okay, they started sending people into Palestine to be resettled. The Palestinians welcomed them with open arms. They thought they were all going to live in peace, right? No, that's not what happened. Very shortly after they became basically residents in what is now Israel, these people started taking and killing the Palestinians, stealing their homes, stealing their land, raping their women. I mean, it was a nightmare. And they did terrible, terrible things to these people. And this has been going on for almost 80 years now. Okay? And yet the Jews still want to say, we're the victims, poor the Jews, they threw us out of country. Well, why? Does anyone ever say, why would they have been thrown out of, what was it, 8 or 9 countries?
That's right. They have been thrown out.
Yeah. You think there might be a reason for that? Not because they were Jews, but because they were thieves, liars, and cheats. And that mentality, it's pervasive. If you look at what's happened to our country, at the level of what I would call the morality, the tone of a civilization, ours has fallen into the gutter. All right. Now, we're not prudes. Okay. We don't believe in censorship per se, but we do think there's a time and a place for certain phrases, for certain actions and discussions. Today, anything goes. There's no sensibility any longer. And that's part of what has been done to ruin the fabric of the American society, just like they tried to do in Germany. And the American people, unfortunately, are ignorant of history.
Yeah.
And
that's all by design.
That's right. And they're resistant to hearing anything new, because when you've been fed a bunch of lies and you build your worldview on those lies, you think that's you. And then somebody comes along and say, well, this isn't right, or that's wrong. And they go, what? Wait a minute. And they feel wrong. So they're first.
And then they're mad at you.
That's right. How dare you challenge? Well, I'm only trying to point something out to you that's true. If you bought a product and you thought it was a good one because of the advertising, but you used it and found out it was crap, wouldn't you want to say to your friend, you know what, you don't want to buy that. That's a waste of money. It didn't work the way it was supposed to. You'd want to advise them to make a better decision. Well, the Americans need to be advised really quickly about making better decisions, because unless they start thinking for themselves and start questioning all the nonsense that they're seeing, especially the crap that comes out of mainstream news and all of the pundits that talk nonsense every day, unless they realize that this is a scam, they are going right down into the hole, the abyss, and they will be living as communist transhuman slaves. That's what they're going to be if they don't snap out of it.
Michelle. There are some common elements here.
Yes,
okay?
big time.
One is communism, one is Jews, and one is central bankers. And they have been behind every major war this has had for the past 500 years. They've been behind every war we've had, including the Revolutionary War. I think we've talked about this before. Okay. So I told you about the Kaiser. All right. We know a guy whose father was a good friend of the Kaiser. He was a student in Germany during World War I. He wound up as conductor of the New York Philharmonic. And the Kaiser took a liking to this fellow. And the girl he married, who was also a student, an American student in Germany. Okay. They said the Kaiser was the sweetest, kindest loveliest fellow you'd ever want to meet. He was lenient, and he was lenient with the Jews.
Yeah.
But when he saw what the Jews did, and the fact that the Jews were communists right across the board, except I'll give you one exception for the original German Jews.
Yes.
The original German Jews were Germans first and Jews second. They supported Germany. The other Jews who came in, who were invited in and just came in, were voracious. They were enemies of the Republic of Germany. Okay. So
There's so much chaos in the world, and one of the best things you can do is to stay healthy. We are bombarded with toxins, toxins in the air, water, soil, beauty products, household cleaners, the list goes on. And one thing most people don't talk about are parasites. Parasites are everywhere, and they're microscopic. They can cross the blood-brain barrier. They cause bloating. They cause sugar cravings. They can change your emotions, and they've also been shown to mimic diseases. I've been in the fitness and wellness industry for over 30 years and have a special detox program that binds heavy metals and makes your body unhospitable for parasites. It also repairs your gut lining, which is crucial for all of us. So if it's time for you to feel better in your body, stop the bloating, have better memory, stop having to pee all the time because that is a huge sign you need a detox, then go to blossominnerwellness.com. Sign up for the free private membership program. Click on more programs to learn more. I'd love to support you to feel better. Much aloha.
communism, Jews, and bankers own the world. Let's face it.
Yeah,
Let's put it
that's right.
right in the real situation. So when they saw what the Kaiser was doing, and they knew his inclinations anyway. Okay. But when he vociferated those inclinations publicly, they said, no, we got to take this guy out. So that was World War One. Hitler, as I said before, his enemy was communism, not Jews.
And they inverted it because they
And-
made it seem like he was communist.
Right.
Yes,
They always
exactly.
invert things.
And his enemy was also central banking. Okay.
That's right.
So what did he do? He killed the Jews central bank of Germany. He set his own currency backed by gold. When was the last currency ever backed by gold
Real time,
existed
yeah.
in this country or the
Mhm.
world, I should say, a long, long time. All right. He was good to his people and he was horrified. Okay. And I know a little bit about this from the personal point of view. He was horrified with the fact. Go ahead.
He was horrified by the fact that his beloved Germany was being converted into, I hate to say it, but a cesspool. Okay, understand that this element, okay, brought in filth. It brought in pornography. It brought in all sorts of banal, horrible practices. And when they speak about, oh, the Nazis burned books, how terrible, do you know what books they were burning? They were burning the filth that these Jews brought in to degrade the society. But when you only get a little slice of history, and the slice is so minimal and so really deceptive, you don't know what to think. So you either don't think anything at all, or your first impression is, oh, these people were evil. Well, no, they weren't. Now, if you look at warfare in and of itself, horrible things happen in war. And to us, it makes no sense because, a soldier or a cop, they're just somebody that gets a license and says, here, you can do now what is wrong to do because we said so, because we're the authority. And I don't go for that. I think that's crap. But when Hitler was setting about to stop communism, what he did was to protect his nation and largely to protect Europe. And England, early on, the English people who were actually related to the Germans, okay, from the ancestral lines, they did not want a war. They wanted to work out some kind of compromise because they knew that a war would be devastating. But
So what would you say if someone would ask you, why was he invading other countries then?
He wasn't.
He was taking
First of all, he was taking back land that belonged to Germany. Like when he went into Poland, he was taking back land that was German land. Okay. Now, you won't see this in the history books because that truth has been wiped out. But that was the excuse they used to say, see, he's trying to conquer everybody. No, he wasn't. His mistake was trying to do too much too soon, because he divided his forces so much that they were actually, fighting on both fronts by the time all was said and done. And that was the end of it. But initially, Germany was beating everybody because they were superior soldiers. They had better plans, they had better generals, they had better soldiers in general, and their morale was high because they believed, and I think that they were true in their belief, that they were fighting for justice and to stop an evil force from ruining our world. That was what he was trying to do. I mean, if you look back at what happened during the so-called Bolshevik Revolution, what was that, huh? Those weren't the Russian people revolting. Again, that was an insidious group of Jews that got in there and they fomented war, because the communist MO is always the same. They appeal to the masses who've been suppressed because they don't have any money, you don't have enough food, whatever. And they say, look, those bad guys at the top, we want to go after them. We're going to empower you. Everyone's going to be equal. But that's a lie. Because who do you think sets up communism? Who are the puppets pulling the string? It's the elite people at the top.
Bankers. Yeah.
That's right. They're pushing this agenda to get the innocent dupes of the citizens to go along with it. Then they pull a rug out from under them. And if you look at any country in this world that went into communism, it went into a shit show. It really did. None of them have thrived and done well. It always fails because eventually the people snap out of it and say, what the heck were we thinking? And communism is over. And then it's a struggle to get back. And then another leader comes in. And of course, this government, unfortunately, this corporation that pretends to be a government, is guilty of perpetrating all sorts of evil in all these other countries by taking out good leaders that would have worked for the people and putting in puppets who will do what the US and Israel tell them to do. And that's why the world's such a mess, because it's the same hand, okay, whether it's new faces or recycled faces, it's the same plot. It's always the same.
So yeah, my new book, The Death of Freedom, is actually shares how the leaders aren't even in control. It's the systems that have been in place for so long, and that the leaders are just the puppets that try to appease the people, so that people think that they actually have power to put in their own leaders. Yeah. So what do you think about Trump? What do you think? I mean, I used to be a Trump supporter, and now I'm like, he's part of the whole system.
Yeah. To be clear about what we think about Trump, in the initial election in 2016, since we couldn't possibly think about voting for Hillary, knowing exactly what she is, we said, well, I don't particularly like Trump, but I would rather see him get in than Hillary. So let's see what happens. But we were both skeptics, I'll put it that way. And then Jack said, I'm going to give him a week. We watched the inauguration, and he promised to return the power to the American people. We said, yeah, let's see how that goes. That didn't happen. When we saw within the first week the type of people that he had been surrounded by, whether it was his choice or he was dictated to or whatever, we knew that they were all New World Order Zionist people, okay? So when he talks about America coming first, that's a big lie, because in Zionism, America is on the bottom of the barrel. We are the bitch to Israel, so to speak. They're telling us what to do, not the other way around. And Trump's obligations to the bankers are long. He almost got ruined in business a number of times, and they bailed him out. And people like the Adelsons, who have been funding him for a long time, and Miriam Adelson, this past campaign, gave him $100 million for his campaign. And the caveat was that he will allow Israel to do whatever it wants to finish off Palestine, they say. And all of the talk about we want peace in the Middle East, that would be a good thing, it's nonsense. And when they use the term war, there's no war there. In order to have a war, you have to have an army on both sides. The Palestinians don't have an army.
That's right.
And Hamas is a creation of the Mossad and the CIA, put into place so that Israel has an enemy to go after, to seek, so they can justify bombing and all the raids and everything else that they do. Now, supposedly they just agreed to a ceasefire, and they're still bombing people who are trying to get home or trying to get to aid stations. So, when is the hypocrisy going to be recognized by the average Joe in this country? When are they going to sit back and say, you know what? These guys are nothing but liars. They're murderers. And we sat back and watched them, and they're using American money, American weapons, and
People.
people to commit a genocide.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of a legacy is that for any country to put down in their history books? What kind of people would sit back, not just Americans, but worldwide, say, oh, that's okay. You can do what you want because you're Jews. No. And what ethnicity or tribe or people do you know of that get special treatment on this planet? Is there anybody? Just one?
Yeah, I'm just one. That's right. Just
Yeah.
one.
So why are we allowing it? If we believe the premises that all men and women are created equal, why are we saying that those folks is more equal than us? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, the senators and the congressmen, look at how many of them are dual citizens with Israel.
Right.
And they all
80%,
have
I
APEC
think it is.
handlers, except for one or two. They all have APEC handlers who tell them what to do. They write the bills for them. The lobbyists do. These guys don't write their own bills. They just rubber stamp it, because if they don't, they know that they're going to be on the shit list. They get funded for campaigns because they're going to do what they're told to do. And so that means we have pretty much an entire Congress that is in league with and under the thumb of a foreign nation. That's treason, outright
right.
treason. And America's going to pass the salt. Who's going to leave the island this week? There's no connection between them and what's actually going on right under their noses. And you asked why they would do what they did with Charlie Kirk and Jack said because they can, and that's true. But there is an agenda here, because a lot of legislation is being passed while this is happening. And now this big dramatic shutdown, that's all part of the scheme too. This is an opportunity for them to cut a lot of things that they don't want in place, especially anything that really benefits the people. Think about it. They're going to hurt a lot of people with this thing, because they want the American people on their knees. See, America would have been the biggest obstacle to the advocacy of the New World Order. But America is divided. The people are weak. They are disinterested. They're apathetic. A lot of them are on drugs, whether they're pharmaceutical drugs or whether they're street drugs. So I would say they're disempowered in one way or another. They've been dumbed down with school. They've been lied to, and they've been miseducated. So the people that you would think would have had some kind of gumption to get up and say, stop this is wrong, are like nowhere to be found. There's a remnant. Like Jack and I feel like dinosaurs here. We've been saying the same damn thing for decades, and people looked at us 30, 40, 50 years ago like we were crackpots. I mean, in school, we spoke out against nonsense that we could see and nobody believed us. And now here we are living it. It's 2025, and still the American people are like asleep at the switch. So it doesn't bode well for our country. It really doesn't.
I love your guys' website. You have Citizens of the American Constitution, and you have helped so many people in court systems using the Constitution and making it a constitutional court.
Yes.
I have faith. There's times that I get down and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're totally screwed, especially with our Hawaii governor signing 9 emergency proclamations based on administrative issues, 0 legislation, 0 public testimony, and he suspended 32 laws, and he just keeps going.
There's no authority. Where's the people? The people should be in his face saying, dude, you don't have any authority to do that, because you work for us, okay? And unless the people are informed, and unless the people have an opportunity to make their comments and make a choice and persuade their leaders to do what they want them to do, you guys have no authority. But see, Americans don't know that. And I know it's true in Hawaii, because we've been to Hawaii and lived there for a while. We know what it's like. People there are wonderful, beautiful people, but they're very passive. They're very laid back.
I know. Not all of them. Not everybody. There are some cases, but
I've met the ones that are not. But when you look at numbers, okay, we need numbers, and we need people to realize that they have not only the right to speak up, but they have a duty. If we have any hope of maintaining our republic and maintaining the Constitution, which our founders were wise enough to put together in such a way that say, hey, you people are the government, you're the boss. We're putting together a blueprint for how the government machinery is going to work, but you guys have to take over and watch it. You have to make sure these guys follow suit and stay in their constitutional box. But the most Americans didn't do that. They were too busy trying to survive, earn a living, etc. And of course, the master hand at the top, the evil ones who orchestrate all these things, they keep people poor, they keep them sick, they keep them ignorant, right? They
Entertained.
entertain. Oh yes, got to have that. And they give them all these little issues to fight and argue about. You know what I mean? So that people are in a conversation, they can't even be civil with each other. They don't know how to agree to disagree. They don't know how to say, well, I see your point about this, but what do you think about that? They can't even do that. They scream and yell at each other. It's a kind of a circus, really.
You know, I'll give you an example about Hawaii. We went over there twice, okay, within a couple of years. And we
three
taught
times, I think.
3 times, was it?
2 or 3, I can't
All right.
remember now.
Anyway, we taught seminars over there. And a lot of people understood what we were doing. Well, I can't say a lot of people, but some of the people in the seminars understood what we were doing. And they won some amazing cases.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, one case was won against the U.S. Army in U.S. court, United States District Court. One of our people won a case against the Army. Another guy won a case against a major bank, okay, that never lost in court, okay, and against a lawyer or a law firm, I won't even mention the name, that was considered a money firm connected with the courts. He beat a major bank, Citibank. People were winning left and right who actually followed our methods. Guess what happened? We left zero, nothing. No one did anything.
Tried to carry on, but there was a lack of understanding of the power that the people hold inherently in themselves. And I think, again, by design, they've diminished the people's self-respect. And if you don't respect yourself and you don't see yourself as having the right to speak truth to the so-called power forces, then the power forces will stomp on you like an ant on the sidewalk. They don't care. They don't have a conscience. They don't have any empathy. Most of the people in public offices, at least the higher echelons, are psychopaths. And a lot of them are sociopaths, or a combination of both. They don't care. And they look at us basically as
idiots.
Idiots who are useless eaters to be used as resources until they shrunk up everything that they can get out of us, and then they toss us in the
And you know what,
wastebasket.
Michelle, they're right. They're correct. The American people are useless eaters.
By the way they act.
Yeah. They don't know their rights. They don't care about their rights. They don't know the Constitution. They don't know a damn thing. And when you try to teach people the real law, okay, the authentic law, you get criticized. All right.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the real law and how can people stand up, because that is I already have you guys in my book at the end, especially with that one story you guys shared about the winds in Hawaii, which people, you guys have to understand the work that Jack and Margy have been doing for so many years has worked. Like they have really had amazing success. But let's talk about the real law, Jack, to share with people so that they know, because this is not taught in schools. They have a design to keep people ignorant and entertained. Look over here, distraction, Charlie Kirk, all of it. But let's talk about what is the real law.
Okay, first of all, I have to preface that by saying the American people are not really themselves. Very few people in this world, especially America, are themselves. They're a compilation of propaganda, programming, conditioning, training, okay, and receiving what the system wants them to be to support the system. All right. Now, Margy said when we were young, we were ourselves. We didn't believe the propaganda. We didn't believe the nonsense. I grew up during the Second World War, okay? And I could see guys coming home that were mutilated. And I'm saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Germany is a good country. Germany's trying to do the right thing and the world is fighting Germany. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. All right, so the bottom line here is people are unaware of the reality in which they live. Yeah, they can see the ball game, they can see what's on television, they can go to a party and understand what's going on, but they don't understand the reality in which they live. There are two sets of laws in this country, and the people have no idea. Some do. There are some people who understand it. Okay. One is constitutional law, and the Constitution of the United States
Or the United States of
or the
America.
United States of America. Okay, that's Kirk 1787 is amended with the Bill of Rights in 1791. That is the authentic supreme law of this land.
The only one.
That is the one we should be dealing with. That's the first set of law. The second set of law is what you call corporate, communist, Jew, banker controlled law. That's private law that belongs to a private corporation that has no legitimacy when used against an American citizen. But the people don't understand that. They don't understand the Constitution. So they accept all these ridiculous statutes, rules, and regulations promulgated by the system. And very few people ever use the Constitution. Now, you're right. I mean, this is not ego speaking, but it's reality speaking. We and our people have won thousands of cases against this evil system. Thousands. Okay. If we can do it, anyone can do it. We're not lawyers. Okay. We're not special people. We just know our rights. And our people who really study our material know their rights. And as a matter of fact, there's a professor in a law school, I won't mention it, but there's a professor in a law school who's been following us for a while, and he's now teaching our methods to his student.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And he wants to set up, I can't call them organizations,
like a
but
club
like
or something.
Clubs,
Chapters of
clubs in various law schools across the country. And he's going to try it in his law school first. And if it's successful, he's going to try to get it across the country.
That's wonderful.
Because he said, if I, teach these kids nonsense
Stuff that they're teaching.
and they graduate, they're going to use the nonsense of the system against the people.
The same evil stuff.
They really have to know what the hell is going on. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but it's a possibility. Okay. So the American people have to understand there are two sets of laws. All right. If they reject the codes, rules, and regulations because they're unconstitutional, then they have a chance of succeeding. Now, why are the rules and regulations unconstitutional? We go to Article 6 of the Constitution, which bind all public officers to their oaths, and their oath is taken to that Constitution. Okay. They're constitutionally mandated to hold that Constitution as the supreme law over any other form of lesser law, including state law. And that is stated in the Constitution.
That's
so
great.
When you come to state law versus constitutional law, state law is subordinated by the Constitution. Okay.
Superseded.
It's superseded by the Constitution. Okay. But people don't understand this. Like they don't understand much of anything, which gets us into the Charlie Kirk thing again. I said earlier, it's another fraud. It's another scam. It's another false flag perpetrated upon the American people by the American government, or the U.S. government, I should say, which is a corporate government, as you know.
It's a corporation.
Yeah, it's a corporation. And they've been doing this forever. And the American people support the fraud. The American people have to get real, see reality, okay, oppose the fraud, and support the truth. But frankly, Michelle, we've been around for a long time. I've been doing this well over 70 years, and Margy's been doing it over 60. We don't see any benefit in this country, okay? The people who, for instance, even the thousands of people who have won with us, once they win, they drop out. They don't pay it. They don't pay it forward.
Very few have paid it forward.
Now, one guy in Hawaii has paid it forward.
Yeah.
Okay, one guy out of the many people we taught over there. It's a sad thing for America. It's a really sad thing because we had the greatest possibility of the greatest country in this world with our Constitution. Does the Constitution have some problems? Yeah, it does.
Nothing's perfect.
Okay. but it's the finest egalitarian document ever written by mankind for the governance of a nation, okay, by the people, not by the government, by the people. But the people just never used it. So I don't think they ever will. I'd love to see it, but in 70 plus years, it's gotten worse, not better.
No, I think that's true.
And that's by design. It's all with all of the distractions and the transgender and the man, woman, all of it. All of it is by design. It's all ridiculously by design.
And the idea is to keep the people stuck in place,
Yeah.
distracted and
Angry
ineffective.
at stuff that doesn't matter.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
ineffective at doing something that does, because people have said to us it can't be that simple when we
Yeah,
would
it
say to
is.
them this is how we would approach it. But yet the people who would say, you know what, you guys have been successful, so I'm going to go ahead and do what you suggest and let's see how it goes. And then when they come back to us, they say, my God, that was amazing. I felt so empowered. Thank you. I kind of thought it was too simple, but it actually was perfect. Yes, because the Constitution, although it's not a perfect document, as I said, nothing is because it's written by humans, but the basic premises, the fundamental principles in that are very strong and very powerful. And if you understand that, and if you understand your inherent political power, then you have this feeling in you, this sense of righteousness, and I mean in the highest form of that word, not self-righteousness, but righteousness to do the right thing and to be an ethical and a moral human being. And that's the kind of government we deserve. We have a right to expect our government to do the right thing, to listen to the people, to do what's best for the people, and never to put the people in danger, especially for profit gain or hegemony, which is exactly the opposite of what the so-called government is doing and has been doing for a long time. It's been working against us as a pernicious force for the dark side. And
That's
once
right.
Americans snap to that, if they really figure that out, they consider themselves, well, Christ, why do I want to support that? Why do I want to do anything to help these people ruin my country? I got to be nuts to do something like that. And this is where we have empowered people by saying, stand up and use the Constitution because it's the top dog. The first duty of any public official, thanks to Article 6, clauses 2 and 3, is to uphold the Constitution as a supreme law. And that means uphold our rights that the Constitution's Bill of Rights secures. So if government does something that violates our rights, we have to speak up and say, no, you don't have any authority to do that. And we have to understand the distinction. Jeff is talking about the two types of law. Well, those administrative statutes and codes, they don't rise to the level of law constitutionally because they're not made in pursuance of the Constitution. They violate people's rights, they restrict, abridge, and prohibit them. So people have to, first of all, they have to know their rights. They have to know that government doesn't have unlimited authority. It has limited, delegated authority. And that authority is governed and controlled by what the Constitution says. And if it's written in the Constitution, then it's authorized. If it's not, then it's prohibited by the Constitution. That's a simple premise that even a little kid can learn. Instead of teaching the simplicity.
Say that again, though.
Okay.
Because that's really important.
Okay. Understanding that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. That government has absolutely no authority to do anything if it doesn't abide by the Constitution. In spirit and letter, that means it has to uphold the rights of the people. It cannot interfere with people's contracts and so forth and so on. If you read the simple premises, and people say, well, it's very complicated. No, it isn't. It's written in English. You don't need an interpreter. You can see it. And if you don't know a word, look it up. You'll say, oh, that's what that means.
If it's written in the
and if it's written in the Constitution, and I've said this probably 1,000 times, at least by now, what is written in the Constitution is authorized for government to do. Okay, part of its limited delegated authority from the people. What is not written in the Constitution is prohibited by the Constitution. That means if we didn't say you can do it, you cannot do it. So what did these pinheads do? They went around the block and they did all this other stuff extra constitutionally, which is unconstitutional. And the average guy, since he doesn't know what the Constitution says, and he doesn't know that government is limited to just doing what the Constitution tells it to do, he goes, oh, okay, they got this statute and I got to go to court. You don't know. And people are living beings. Statutes apply to corporate.
Corporate. Yeah.
That's right. We're not corporate. So when you understand that, you can look at a judge in the eye or a prosecutor and let them know, hey, I'm a living, breathing woman on the land and soil. Okay. My name's spelled properly only in upper and lowercase letters. I claim and exercise all of my inherent, unlimited, unalienable rights. They're inherent to me. They can't be taken away, and I cannot waive them. Okay. And you have no authority to attempt to take my rights away, nor to do anything that restricts or abridges my rights. I'm a living being. I'm not subject to the corporation. You cannot contract or do business with me unless I consent, and I do not consent. This is what people need to know. It's a very powerful thing to say no.
That's right.
And to say no because it's the right thing to do, not because you want to be a jerk or you don't want to pay a fine or whatever. It's because they have no lawful authority to be doing these things to us. Just
That's
like
right.
the governor, you're talking about what he did, signing all these bills. He's not a dictator. He's
I know.
elected by the
That's
people. He has limitations. The Constitution imposes limitations. Why aren't the people of Hawaii up in arms over this and showing him you don't have the authority to do this? And because you have stepped outside of the scope of that limited delegated authority, we're going to remove you because you're acting against the Constitution, which is sedition and insurrection, and it's treason against us because we're the government, and we're going to take you out of office pursuant to sections 3 and 4 of the 14th Amendment. You're unfit to serve, and you are prohibited from receiving public funds. That's simple, isn't it?
so absolutely 100%. Is that a case, a court case that we take him to? Do we sue him for that, or do we just go, like, how do we get
Okay,
that
the first
going?
thing I would do an affidavit campaign and put him on notice right away of what he's done wrong, okay, because he's absolutely violating the Constitution. All right, give him 15 days to answer. If he doesn't answer, he's not going to rebut it because he cannot rebut it because what you're going to say is true and is supported by the Constitution, the supreme
But
law of the land.
you tried that in Hawaii.
But you need
With
Right.
the fires, with the
This
fires.
is
Yes.
big though. This is going to encompass the whole
But
state.
you got no support from the people.
Very
Okay.
little.
And that's what I'm
Some,
saying.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
you have a person, someone like you is there to help the people,
Right.
there to help your country, your fellow man. You try to help them, and they give you the finger.
Yeah,
Basically.
Well, let's
And
just
they
say
don't
they
care.
don't. Let's just say they don't. So we have an affidavit. We encompass all of his wrongdoings, which
Yes.
is a lot.
Yes.
Because
Say
I did
how
do
it's
an affidavit with the
unconstitutional.
fires.
Yes.
That was gone. And then how does that keep going?
Well, what you have to do is get a number of people, but you don't, I mean, obviously, realistically, you're not going to get millions of people. You might get hundreds, possibly thousands, if they understand what's at stake. Okay. And if they realize they have the political power and the duty as citizens to stop this man from doing unconstitutional things to you and your state and to everybody in the state. Because this guy has no lawful authority. He cannot
That's
support
right.
what he's done. And if he can't support what he's done, then he is acting in a criminal fashion and he needs to be removed before he does any further harm to the state and to the people. Okay. And if you can get some people to get that through their heads and say, well, we have the authority to do it. Yeah, you do. And you have a duty to protect yourself and your state, your family. Why not?
So we do one affidavit, 15 days. We do another affidavit. Like, let's just say by miracle that we have thousands and thousands of people doing this.
Okay.
How many affidavits does it take to get it?
Well, again, it's not a magic number. It's the fact that the people are aware and they're supporting you and they're decrying what he's doing. He has to know that he's been publicly exposed. Okay. And then it's a matter of going and demanding to say the attorney general or whoever is a law enforcement entity in that state. You have to remove him because he is doing something unconstitutional. And if you don't, then you're going to be removed from your office too. And if it takes an army of the people to do it, we're going to do it because the Constitution is the supreme law here. And you guys are not obeying it. That means you're criminals. And we have a right to remove you and put new people in your place. They have to know you guys are serious. Okay. It can't be just, well, we're going to try this. No, you've got to do it with gusto. There has to be some conviction of the heart in anything that you do against government, especially now.
Look, all that is true. However, the people don't know how to follow through. Okay.
What is the follow through though? That's my question.
The follow through. Let's say you write the affidavit. Let's say thousands of people write the affidavit to the governor. The governor never rebuts them. Okay. In our type of affidavit, as you know, you've seen it.
She knows it.
when the governor, does not rebut anything that is stated in that affidavit regarding his crimes and his unconstitutional actions, then pursuant to the lawful warnings in the affidavit, he admits to and agrees with everything you've stated. Okay? Now, when we do this and our people do this, we're prepared to go to court. Okay? And we do go to court. All right? Now, as you know, we use 1A and 1B of our constitutional court challenges right away. We challenge the judge right away
On his oath.
as soon as the judge convenes the court. And for those who don't know it, I'll go over it. 1A is this. The judge will say,
You ready?
he'll say to the U.S. attorney, is the government ready to proceed? And that idiot would say, yes, Your Honor, the government's ready to proceed. Mr. Flynn, Mrs. Flynn, or whoever's speaking for us at that time, for themselves. Okay. No, sir, not at this time. We have some matters to discuss before we go further. That's your right under due process of law. The court is supposed to clarify any question regarding due process. So most of the judges, if they don't know us, will say, go right ahead. So we say right away, this is 1A. You and the U.S. attorney have taken oaths to support the national and state constitutions. I just made a statement that's based in truth, fact, valid law, and evidence. Anyone can check it out. Then we ask the confirming question, because we never ask questions in court.
Not
You're a
open-ended
fool
questions.
if you ask questions unless you know the answer to them. Okay. So we made a statement and we have the confirming question to the statement. Is that correct? Well, years ago, they would say, yes, of course. You know, I've taken an oath. We followed that up with 1B. With all due respect to you and the U.S. attorney, you're required to abide by those oaths in the performance of your official duties, especially those before this court. Another statement based in truth, fact, valid law, and evidence. Yes, of course. Well, as soon as they say that, we have converted that court only for this
Particular session, yeah.
only for this, not for eternity, only for this session, into an Article 3 court in which the Constitution is king and the judge knows it. So he's really behind the 8 ball right away. And we usually win, I mean, even the most difficult cases within an hour, okay? Easy cases almost right away, okay? This is what the American people can do, but they don't do it. Now, our people who studied our courses do it. But the average guy, if he goes to court on his own, the average gal, they won't do it. They don't know about it. They don't know how to hold the judge in the court to any constitutional duty whatsoever. Okay. Now, some of the judges now will try to distract. We don't get distracted. We don't allow our people to get distracted because we tell them up front, the guy or gal who's ever sitting on the bench is not necessarily going to answer you right away. They're going to try to distract you from your position, okay, take you off your point, and then proceed as usual. All right. We don't do that. We keep on the guy. We keep on him. And if we come across some who are really obstinate, we'll use a phrase like this. Since you maintain that your unconstitutional positions, rulings, and treason are valid and enforceable upon me, then pursuant to your oath and the constitutional mandates of Article 6, cite the specific articles and amendments that authorize your unconstitutional actions, rulings, and treason.
Oh, wow.
That usually does the trick. Okay.
So you guys, what he just said, I want to explain what you just said. And let me know if I'm right. Because Article 6 is about the oath. It's about the people in office taking oaths to the
Clauses 2 and 3.
Constitution.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
And so what you just said was you're like, hey, so you took this oath. It says you're going to support and defend the Constitution. So please show me in the Constitution what amendments say that you don't have to do that.
That's correct.
That is
That's correct.
fantastic.
That's right,
correct.
because they have nothing. How many times have you heard me say they have no comeback for the Constitution? Here it is, it's written in black and white. So it's a statement that they cannot say, well, I don't see that. No, it's right there. And that requires, remember, Article 6 binds these people by their oath to the Constitution. And if they do something that goes against the Constitution, they have perjured their oath, and that vacates their office. So, and they know that we know that. So if people could stand up and look a judge in the eye, and they don't have to be, aggressive or antagonistic, they can be very polite and say, with all respect, sir, okay, this is the supreme law of the land. This is what it says right here in that supreme law. This Constitution is the Constitution to which you were supposed to take an oath. You just affirmed that you have an oath. And because you affirmed that you have an oath, then I am going to assume and expect that you are going to uphold that oath in all aspects of performing your official duty in this court for this matter. Are we clear? And I think a judge is going to go, So he's going to probably say, yeah, okay, I took the oath. Yeah, of course I'm going to abide by it. And then when the proceedings start, after you tell him who you are, that you're a living, breathing man or woman or whatever, he's going to start slipping because he's going to test you. He's going to see what do you really, what it needs to be constitutional. And he's going to try to do something that's going to not let you say, introduce a witness or a piece of evidence or whatever. And that's when you have to be able to say, excuse me, sir, I'm going to refer you now to what you said earlier in the proceedings, that you would uphold your oath. And what you're doing right now is an act that deprives me of due process of law pursuant to my rights guaranteed in the Sixth Amendment or whatever. And so I'm going to ask you again, sir, to reconsider what you just stated and change your decision, because what you've done is to violate due process. And if you do violate due process, then you cause the court to forfeit its jurisdiction, because a court that violates due process of law has no lawful jurisdiction, and its only ability is to dismiss the case before it. And the judge, if he has any brains, to say, okay, all right, yeah, okay, you can have that admitted, all right? Because they know people have a certain script in their head because they've maybe skimmed over. It's like taking a test. You only use the cliff notes and you don't know the beef.